We're going to start with the Club World Cup. I am literally on my way after I tape the show. By the time you listen to the show, I will be USA bound to cover the group stages of the Club World Cup. And I have a piece coming out about it. I'm going to give you a little preview here. Sometimes good things happen for bad reasons. Or sometimes bad things help good things happen.
Okay.
All right? So we can go through the whole litany of bad things or associated with the 2025 Club World Cup. If I forget something, jump in and correct me, right?
Yeah.
So it's coming at the end of the season and everybody's tired.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to go and sell the TV rights properly, and so they had to do this weird thing with Saudi Arabia and DAZN. Nobody's buying tickets.
Yeah.
It's kind of like another attack, or can be seen as an attack from FIFA and club football vis-a-vis the Champions League and so ever. Why is he doing this? It's about money, so they can make more money and redistribute it to his voters, so then they re-elect Gianni Infantino another time. These are all the bad things.
Yeah.
They chose the wrong stadiums, whatever, right? And we can probably agree that some of those things are dubious. Yes.
Yeah.
It was forced through without a proper consultation and vote. So they really do the thing where, the heads of confederations get around, they agree, and then they say, "Oh yeah, guys, let's all vote on this," but we've already agreed.
Yeah.
Right. All of that, sure. But this is a good thing, I think, long term. This is something that hopefully will be around long after Gianni Infantino and FIFA, maybe even you and me, are gone.
Yeah.
And if it does, it can be a tournament that actually helps club football around the world. Because, let's face it, many years ago, there was strong club football in South America and strong club football in Europe. Now, there's strong club football in the top, maybe the big 5 leagues in Europe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of big names in Saudi, whatever. We're not sure how good they are. But it's also because somebody's chucking money into a furnace and it's not a real business.
Yeah.
Can this be a way of involving the rest of the world, of promoting it?
Yeah, I think the idea is great. Of course, the timing, but you could have played this any time in the season, anywhere, and there would have been a problem because, it's congested. The season is already congested. You play already a lot of games, and you add this to it. So let's see how clubs approach it. If it's half a preseason, half a tournament, you still take it seriously, but you have to rotate, and you can't have your same starting 11 playing all 3 group matches and then the knockout stage. It's gonna work. And you were saying that it's already very hot in the US. So for the players, they will have to approach it, and let's see how they approach it, all the managers and the players. But I think this is great. For a long time, we've said, I would like to see the winner of the Asian Champions League against the winner of the Libertadores, against the winner of the CONCACAF Champions League, against the winner of the European Champions League, and all of that. This is good. You've got, in all those groups, in all the 8 groups that you have in this competition, and not all the games are going to be great, but not all the games in the Champions League are great either.
Most of them.
But there's a lot of interesting matchups. There's a lot of teams that you don't know much about, or players that you will discover. And I think for that is great.
I think fundamentally, we have a problem in Europe when it comes to football, especially in Western Europe, especially in this country, but I think also in Italy, in Spain, Germany, whatever. We were there's an expression like, born on third base and you think you've hit a triple. We take it for granted that this is our birthright, to have all the money and all the resources and everybody comes here. One of the things that Gianni Infantino said many years ago, and I think he was right, on this one, is he said, there's money all over the world, but when it comes to football, they only spend that money, or they spend the money almost exclusively in Europe, right? And that just strengthens the game, and as soon as anybody's halfway decent anywhere in the world, they tend to come to Europe. And it's difficult for those teams to grow. But those are really big teams, not just the South American teams that have all the legacy. But, there's teams that pack out stadiums in Asia, in Africa. Auckland City may be slightly different, and that's a weird quirk. But why not give them a chance to go? Isn't this exactly what FIFA's mission statement is, which is to develop the game, not just the national team game, but the club game around the world?
Yeah, I agree. And this is every 4 years. So come on. It's not if it was every 6 months and we're like, again, so 4 years. You've got 4 years to qualify for it, and coefficient stuff. So teams will see this and say, I want to be part of it next time. It's good.
There we go. People are going to accuse us of being FIFA shills, but we don't care. We're going to talk about this more on the Gab and Jules podcast. All right, Jules, let's get stuck into this because, again, people are going to say about the negatives. And in these, we have to be realistic about this, right? One of the things with FIFA is that it's a sporting non-profit organization, right? All the money that comes in, it then goes back out to the member associations, and in this case, the clubs. Now, obviously, it's not that simple because if I'm the FIFA president, first of all, I have a whole sort of political image thing. I have a lot of influence. I want to get reelected, maybe even for more terms than I was supposed to. In the laws I wrote myself, by the way, which were supposed to have term limits. And so the way I get reelected is by making sure all these member associations, they keep getting money from me. And to do that, FIFA has to make a lot of money so that then it can redistribute this money, right? This is the basic business model,
absolutely.
right? There's no shareholders. It's not like Johnny gets stock options or anything, right? So let's be clear on this. So when we ask ourselves, and I just want to spend a little bit of time on this, and like, what could they have done differently? What could they have done better? One big thing is, for me, one obvious thing is, all right, it's the first one. Do you need to have 32 teams? Could 16 have been sufficient? The counter argument to that, and this is part of the problem, is everybody wants a chunk of this money because he promised like $1 billion in prize money. If you go with 16 teams, you either pack it with European teams. So there's 12 European teams, right? So let's say you have everything and you have 6 European teams. 6 European teams, shorter tournament, less games, less stock to sell, both to sponsors and to TV companies. Fewer European teams probably means less star power overall. More of a risk that you might get stuck with more Salzburgs and fewer Real Madrids. But obviously Real Madrid is always going to be there. But so that is the reason. And I'm wondering, from a sporting perspective, should they have held fast on 16 teams? Because they would say, well, guys, if I make it 16 teams, I run the risk of some teams saying, meh, I'm not making enough money off this. I'd rather go on tour. I'd rather rest up and then go on tour later.
Yeah, you will still have made more money with 16 teams than what you do on tour, where on tour you probably get 3-4 million per game. If you play 2 games, sometimes 3, this will still be more. But yeah, I agree with you. And also, I think as a first one, to just see how it goes. 32 is a hell of an organization, even for TV rights, even for DAZN who bought the rights, for the fans who want to travel, for the club to get organized with hotels, logistics, all of that. It's a bit more complicated. So I like the idea of maybe having started a bit smaller, but hey, they went for the big thing. And like you said, like we said earlier, it's once every 4 years. So let's see how this one goes. You've got then 4 years to make it better for the 2029 edition. Wherever you play it, whoever is in it, however well you qualify, because there was a little bit of dodginess in how you qualify for some countries and regions.
Each region, each confederation made their own rules for qualifying. And so in UEFA, I'm not going to go through all the rules.
No, but we get the idea. We've mentioned it enough on the show.
We've talked about it enough. And obviously, the Inter Miami situation was a bit of a screw job. And this whole nonsense with Club Leon taking it all the way to the wire. Again, Club Leon would have probably attracted, or they thought was going to attract more than Alajuelense and then whatever, right? But we've been through all this. What about in terms of timing?
It felt to me, and you know more than me on that, it felt a little bit rushed. It felt like it has to be in 2025 because it can't be in 2026. 2027 feels in a long time. So let's make sure it happens in 2025. And it felt to me...
2027, you have the Women's World Cup as well.
You have the Women's World Cup in the US, so it can't even happen. It could have happened, but somewhere else for the men's game. And it felt like they really wanted it in this summer 2025 at all cost, and it had to go on it, even if it was not completely ready, even if the project was not, even if we didn't even know who exactly had qualified back then. They launched it very quickly, I felt, and in the end they will get there because FIFA savoir-faire is great. So it would be a really good tournament, well organized, and the quality we will see it, but he will be good. But it still felt a little bit rushed. And even us, like you're going today, I'm going to be working on it from here in London. And it's just like, okay, it's happening now. Wow, we don't even feel ready ourselves properly.
No, we're not. We haven't had that big build-up that normally you get with World Cups when everything stops. And it was definitely rushed. I mean, it also feels like a little weird that, like, right, let's imagine a parallel universe where Barcelona or Arsenal win the Champions League, which is possible, right? Didn't happen, but possible. but they wouldn't have qualified
Yeah.
for this Club World Cup, which again
That in itself is wrong.
feels kind of weird,
Absolutely.
right?
So that has to change for the next one.
In other words, you would just say like, look, it's a last minute thing, but hey, we can deal with it with the playoffs.
Yeah.
I wonder how much from the perspective of the sponsors comes into it too, because if I'm Barcelona and I'm or Arsenal, in this case, I'm planning ahead, right? My summer, I'll have these friendlies and whatever, and then what do? Like rip up all the contracts on May 31st because I've won because I've won the Champions League and I have to go.
But it would be weird for a Club World Cup to not have the reigning European champions in there.
It feels weird. Yeah. It feels they won't have the Asian Champions League. Sorry, the African Champions League champions, right?
Yeah.
Pyramids FC.
Yeah.
They're not going.
And the Asian Champions League.
Exactly. So that part is just feels odd. Like we said. So could they have played this at another time of year?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you can. You can play January, February, like you have
the World Cup in Qatar.
Yeah, or like
you can't play. You can't play January, February in the US.
No.
I mean, unless you make everything and you play everything in Texas and Florida and Alabama. Or
where will you play the next one? Really? What kind of other country offers you everything that the US offers?
You would have to presumably go and share it out between different countries. I
mean, I think the next one will be in Qatar or in Saudi Arabia, personally, but that's just my opinion and me being a little bit cynical, but I can see it so obviously being there. But then if it's in the summer, it's too hot.
You can't have it in summer.
So you have it, if it's there, it'll have to be at a different time. And again, you arrange the schedule. But what about all the other teams that usually play?
Yeah.
So it's a bit difficult.
I mean, I think all this boils down to is there's too much fixture congestion in the camp. But we've been saying that for a long, long time. I think one other aspect is it's the U.S. Like, the U.S. is kind of like the El Dorado of football people, like especially in other parts of the world. They're like, oh, if we can never crack soccer in the U.S., I'll make so much money. And then they go to NFL games and they look at the projections and they say, you sell these tickets for how much? And stupid compared to the Super Bowl. And guys, I cannot emphasize this enough. Jules, you and I are both fans of U.S. sports. Stop comparing yourself to the NFL. Yeah. There are 17 games in an NFL regular season, right? There are 38 games in the Premier League. So obviously those 17 games are going to be worth more money. Yeah. There's one market for the NFL, one domestic market. I mean, it's 300 million people. There's the highest GDP in the world. Yeah. People are used to going to games and dropping a lot of money. Hey, look, do I want to pay $75 for parking? Of course I do.
But there's still things that are realistically that the NFL does or do that could be
very good.
Yeah, copied or could be an inspiration. But you're right. Tickets. So the tickets price is definitely not.
But this is the crucial thing here, right?
Yeah.
So he said, let's have it in the U.S. because people there are used to getting the NFL treatment.
Yeah.
Or I might even add, frankly, the Major League Soccer treatment. Because, I mean, the last time I went to a Major League Soccer game, I won't name and shame them. I paid $40 to park my car, which seems it was actually slightly more than my ticket. But so you want to have it in the U.S., and again, they have overpromised. They've overpromised in terms of sponsors. They've overpromised in terms of tickets. That's why the ticket prices are way down. I don't know if this is still going to be the case, but as of last week, as you know, for the opening game in Miami, featuring Inter Miami, featuring this obscure footballer nobody's ever heard of and who definitely doesn't put bums in seats, a guy named Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
There were tons of tickets available at 1/6 the original asking price.
Yeah.
There was a thing doing the rounds on Reddit where if you were a student at Miami-Dade Community College, which is one of the local junior colleges in Miami, where if you bought one ticket for $20, you could get another 4 tickets for free.
I mean, that's what they will do anyway. They can't have an empty stadium, so there will be, I think, a lot of invitations or free thing. But I think personally that it will be a slow start for all the reasons that we said, and also right now in the US, I don't think the atmosphere or the mindset is to focus on soccer and football. So I get that. I think it will pick up and it will get better as it goes because people will start watching. People would want to go to the stadium. You will have the big European teams or South American teams or Mexican teams that will be in town. So that will attract. I think it'll be a slow start, but then we will get there. But we will repeat what we said earlier in one of the past shows. They were also over-ambitious in the size of the stadiums that they picked, because one thing that the US have is all-size stadium. You can go and you'll have some MLS ones that are decent size, others are much bigger. You can have super big, you could have... And I felt that they chose some stadiums that were a little bit too ambitious to fit.
There's no question about that. Make it a scarce property. But again, they were driven by promises that we're going to go and make all this money, and they felt they needed to do it. Because remember Florentino, Real Madrid grumbling about how much prize money you're going to get, deciding the prize money allocation. By the way, in case you don't know this, I did an interview with the chairman of Mamelodi Sundowns from South Africa, who are going to be competing. And if you're a South African team and you get the exact same results as Real Madrid and you win, you're going to get substantially less money than Real Madrid do for winning and getting the exact same results. And many reasons for this. It's part of the negotiation.
Yeah.
The Champions League also distributes money this way.
It's the same,
But it feels a little bit unfair.
Yeah, a little bit.
They don't do this in the World Cup, right? They don't say like, oh, look, Mexico, you're the biggest TV market in the world. Okay, fine. So you guys get more money. They don't do that, right? So it's a really complex balancing act. I want to hit two other quick things. One is... You've taken a closer look, I have to say.
Yeah, we have to talk about football as well.
We have to talk about the football side.
We talked about all the preview from the rest. And like we said, we're excited, but we don't know what kind of approach teams will take into this competition. You might have a bit of a B team for some of those group stages games if you're, Real Madrid or Man City or Chelsea. Or not, it might be later in the competition. You might mix, you might rotate. I don't know. But there's some really, really tasty fixtures to come up. In the Group B, for example, Atletico Madrid against PSG would be great. You also have Botafogo and the Seattle Sounders in that. You've got the Group C with Bayern, Benfica and Boca in there.
And
plus Auckland FC. Yeah. So which is good for them. I think it'd be a great experience. I don't expect them to either score many goals or get many points. But still, Chelsea with Esperance, Tunis, Flamengo, LAFC is a good draw for them. But again, you face teams that you don't usually face. But Inter Milan against River Plate is great. We saw Fluminense and Thiago Silva, for example, and a few others, Brazilian players who used to be in Europe. So there's great. There's a Juventus Manchester City game coming up, for example. I don't know what games you're going to cover there, Gabby, but I think there's a lot of interesting things. And even if Al Ain Wydad is not your favorite, like Saudi against Morocco, there might still be stuff that are interesting in games like that.
Yeah, and I think also some of these, when you've got teams from in certain areas, that's the other thing about the US, right? It's a very big, diverse country, especially certain parts of the country. People have criticized certain locations, which maybe are less diverse, but you put a Tunisian team in Esperance, a giant stadium, or in Philadelphia, or in LA. You're going to get, the second generation.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Obviously, we already get that with Mexico. We know that. So I think that side of it will be okay. We'll be fine. I think it's pretty much guaranteed that we're going to get one or two upsets immediately.
Yeah,
Somebody being shocked.
For the reasons that we said, because some will approach it with their first team, full team, all the way through, and others will treat it as a preseason.
And some have been prepping for 3 weeks, and others, will just have guys coming back from the Nations League and whatnot. The other thing, I want to go back to this. I don't know if this is the world of football that we will ever get or that we want, but it seems to me like we live in a globalized world, right? And as I said before, certain teams, certain countries, because of their history, because of the geopolitics of it, have a massive built-in advantage. And I think that advantage continues growing, right? The Champions League gets more and more valuable. And so Flamengo's not going to catch up with Bayern Munich. It's just not going to happen for a very, very long time. Yeah. This can be a first little baby step to at least give them a chance. And I think primarily here of Brazilian teams, or South American teams, I should say, and European and African teams, right? Because they produce, a sizable plurality of the world's top footballers. And what happens as soon as the kids can legally do so, sometimes illegally, at 18, they move to Europe.
Yeah.
And their teams have no shot, no prayer of keeping them. Even if they're a big long shot in Europe, what happens? They go and they'll play in the Belgian third division or the Italian third division or whatever, right? They come here, or Scandinavia, sorry. the worst. Not the worst, but
No, but yeah.
There's
This
a
is
lot.
the
You
pathway.
document yourself of what happens
Yeah.
or what has happened at some clubs. If these guys could get paid a decent enough salary to stick around in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Cameroon, where many of these countries players come from, so that they develop a little bit, then maybe their clubs could actually get a transfer fee from them, and then they could reinvest that in the academies. I mean, I think this is what we're trying to create. I mean, it's the same thing with Brazil. But when I was a kid, many years ago, teams from Brazil used to hang on to their players until they were 22, 23 years old. They were able to do that, and they got big transfer fees. Now they get transfer fees, but they lose them when they're 16 or 18. But then they. So I think if we think this is the right thing to do, forget the business side of it, then I think you have to embrace this long term. And there's a lot wrong with the way this first edition comic came out, but in the long term, surely, from where I sit, and I think from where you sit, this is the right thing to do. All right, enough Club World Cup. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go, guys.
Argentina and Colombia battle to a feisty 1-1 draw as Luis Diaz scores a worldie and Enzo Fernandez gets himself sent off. Jules?
Yeah, this was really good, Gab. This was really good. This time we saw Leo Messi starting, which he didn't start the previous game. But Colombia were, I felt, the better team for most of this game. Luis Diaz scored a great goal. And then Thiago Almada rescued Lionel Scaloni and this Argentina team that really were ahead in the qualifiers anyway. So even if they had lost that game, it would not have mattered so much in terms of table and stuff like that. It's more for the confidence. You are home. You don't lose to a very good team that is a bit of your closest competitor in South America, because they are better than Brazil, and Brazil have been struggling a bit. So this was good in the end. And for Enzo, come on. Please.
They have such an enormous lead, obviously, that they're on 35 points already. I'm just wondering whether we might see more of we've seen a little bit of it, different solutions, different players, more Franco Mastantuono. More,
for example.
Kind of
that's true. Brazil beat Paraguay 1-0 and have qualified for the World Cup. And Gab, this is the first win for Carleto Ancelotti.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it was set up very nicely for him,
it's on his birthday as well, wasn't it?
On his birthday, too. Yes, officially 66.
66, that's
young.
right, yeah.
Compared to the first game, I think the main difference was he played more of a 4-2-3-1. You had Vinicius through the middle with Matheus Cunha behind him. Cunha did not cover himself in glory with one of the finishes.
Yeah,
I thought they were a lot better than Paraguay. They could have scored several goals.
They were better than his first game too, which we could expect.
I may have improved a little bit. I think at some point, like we've said it, these guys, he didn't select these players. He hasn't watched them. He was busy with his Real Madrid job. Now he has a long time where he can go and figure out what kind of a Brazil team to put together to win the World Cup. The Vini through the middle, though, do you see this as something that's going to last?
No, sure. I mean, he scored the winner. Obviously, scored the only goal.
With a very center forward-like movement.
Yeah, true. Which I think he can do. I wonder if you lose a little bit of what makes him so special by not having him wide, and when he can go on one-on-one like that. There will be games where he's got two centre-backs behind him. He has to hold up the ball, which is not his game. So, I don't know, but I'm not sure what the alternative is. Much.
Jesus.
Or Richarlison, which I would rather Vini than that.
Poor Ricky. Italy, with the already sacked Luciano Spalletti on the bench, beat Moldova 2-0. This was way back on Monday night. Jules, they won, but did they look any better?
So I watched this game because I was just curious. I thought, imagine
you were in a masochistic mood.
Moldova. And then when Moldova scored, because they did score a goal after just 10 minutes, which was ruled off offside, which was the right call, but it still showed, I think, how tense probably Italy were. Italy scored one before the break, one after. I don't think it was great, to be fair. They won 2-0 against a really poor team. But there's a lot of work to do for whoever comes next, and that's our next question. There's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I can answer this, Give me my view. No, they were just as bad as against Norway. Arguably even worse. The reason they won this game is that Moldova are really terrible. Moldova's front three are three dudes that, other than Jonita, nobody's heard of. Whereas, Norway's front three is Nusa, the only living Swarleth in captivity, and Erling Haaland. That's the only reason.
And sticking with the Azzurri, Gab, Claudio Ranieri has turned down the job. So what happens next? Who's coming?
So I tell you what I hope happens next. So first of all, Claudio Ranieri did well to turn down the job. 72 years old.
We said, come on, leave him alone.
Leave him alone. He's got a day job, whatever. What I want to happen next is take your freaking time. There's no game between now and September.
Yeah.
And it seems that like all of a sudden we're like, oh look, it's going to be Pioli, it's going to be Rino Gattuso.
Gattuso seems to be the front
he
runner.
seems to think so. Yeah, it's funny. Uncle George, like.
Of course.
Other candidates have been mentioned. De Rossi, I wouldn't mind De Rossi, certainly more so than Gattuso. Cannavaro, who I think sometimes gets the short end of the stick for different reasons. I personally, if you are willing to rebuild the bridges, or he's willing to rebuild the bridges, Roberto Mancini.
He's the best candidate, but
he's the best candidate. He says he would like to come back. He's apologized. Are we going to hold this against him forever? I mean, Italy were actually good with Mancini.
Yeah, that's
things
true.
were actually happening.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I hate this kind of rush, and it seemed as if the media felt like we need to fill a hole. I'm like, guys, no, take your time.
Yeah.
It is a big job. I'm not saying you have to look abroad. Stuff happens. People might get sacked. People might move. Other guys might come in the market. I think they're saying now the end of the month. I see no reason why you can't push this on into July. And frankly, I know that in Italy, like in other countries, everybody goes on holiday in August. Hey, maybe for this job, you don't go on holiday in August. Maybe you find the right guy to lead the Azzurri. Jules, we're not done. We have more quick hits.
Yes.
England lose to Senegal 3-1. Jules, this follows on from their 1-0 win over Andorra, which is actually really a 1-0 victory loss.
Yeah.
It's not good. Does it matter?
Yes and no, Gabby. Yeah, it's not good at all. It's the first time that an African team beat England, which is pretty remarkable. It's a good Senegal team that's been unbeaten for 20 games. All around, it was a good performance from Senegal. It was a really poor performance I felt from England, really flat, not much happening. And yeah, at 2-1 down, they scored a goal that was disallowed for a handball that was maybe a little bit controversial. And after that, they conceded the third one in
French referee?
Yeah, French referee, yeah.
Stéphanie
Frappard. Jude Bellingham was not happy at all when I think it was the right decision to rule out the goal, but hey, it's a bit controversial. But still, even at 2-2, it was not a good performance at all. Again, some changes from Tuchel. Again, a lot of stuff that didn't work. Yeah, I don't know where this is going, to be fair.
And again, Harry Kane scoring.
Yeah. I never thought I'd be saying this, Gabby, but Thomas Tuchel, going back to him, told the world that his mother sometimes finds Jude Bellingham's behavior repulsive.
So everybody, or not everybody, all the people who care about the England team when they lose in a friendly, which is a certain number of people, mostly Daily Mail people, they all lost their minds over this, right? Because the word repulsive is not a word you hear in the footballing context. He's talking about how angry he got at the end. And Tuchel came out and basically in context, he gave the usual spiel about, well, he has this inner rage and drive. You don't want to take it out of him. But then also sometimes it can be damaging to his teammates and to himself, right? This is like the oldest thing in sports, right? People who play with anger. Oh, he plays on the edge, right? It's a freaking trope. It's a stereotype. I'm not saying it's not true. You want to keep the edge. But all he's saying is he has to channel it to make you win.
So we saw him like kicking a bottle after the game and stuff like that.
Yeah, don't be stupid. Also, the whole thing of a large man going after, and I'm sorry, gender shouldn't come into it, but it does, going after a woman referee, it's just not good optics, right?
Yeah.
If he goes after Marciniak, we would have reacted differently, right?
Yeah.
Marciniak might also just kind of flexed, and Jude might have kind of gone the other way with his tail between his legs. But this question's about Tuchel and Tuchel's use of the word repulsive and Tuchel telling us that his mother was watching the game and blah, blah, blah. She might have. So I think this is a language thing. Tuchel speaks excellent English, right? Obviously. But repulsive is not a word that comes up regularly in the footballing context.
Yeah.
What he meant to say, I think, is off-putting, is damaging, is something like that. There are some words which sound the same in different languages, but have different meanings. For example, the word disgrace means something slightly different, I believe, in French than it does in English.
Yeah.
A disgrace in France is something that's, or disgrâce is how you say it, right? Something that's unfortunate. A disgrace in English is something that's shameful.
Yeah.
Right? They're two different things, right? So I think this is all he's doing. Now, he's not helping himself with this. Maybe he shouldn't go
I'm not sure that went down well in the Bellingham camp, surely.
But they need to grow up and they need to have a word and they need to understand. What he's saying, if he just left that word out, it would have been no different than what people have said about Rooney for years, what people say about many guys who play on the edge. But hey, let's build a big mountain out of a molehill, in my view.
Yeah.
It was a wild one between Belgium and Wales as the latter battled from 3 goals down, only to eventually lose 4-3. Jules, you're neither Belgian nor Welsh, but you're both Belgian adjacent and Welsh adjacent.
Yeah, to be fair. And Mrs. L is obviously Welsh. And a lot of the Lawrence family live in Belgium. So this was great. Belgium went 3-0 up, to be fair, with a bit of fortune, I thought, although they were playing well. And Rudy Garcia was loving it on the touchline. And then it all changed. And I thought this young Welsh team with Craig Bellamy as a head coach was wonderful to come back from 3-0 down to 3-3 in Brussels with some lovely, lovely goals if you haven't seen them. Like good collective, everything. The structure was great. And then at 3-3, you're thinking, okay, where is this going? Belgium scored 1 goal that gets disallowed. I think rightly so because the ball was just out of play before that. And I think this Welsh team just switches off a little bit thinking that this is it. There was 5 minutes to go. It's a great draw. And then they leave Tielemans on his own on the right, who crosses, and they leave De Bruyne on his left at the far post, who's at the end of the cross with a lovely left foot kind of volley finish. And then they lose 4-3, which I think they deserve the point. And this is a lucky escape for Garcia and his players, and they will have to learn from it because they started well, but after that, they disintegrated completely.
Yeah, 3-0 up, it felt like, hey, when are we going on the beach?
Yeah, but even that should not happen. Should not happen. Victor Gyökeres continues to make headlines, Gab. Sporting president Federico Varanda says there's no gentleman's agreement, which we thought there was, to let the Swedish striker go for 80 million euros. And anyone wants him will need to pay the release fee of 100 million euros. So
we know, he told you, he keepps getting linked to Manchester United and to Arsenal.
Yeah.
This gentleman's agreement stuff is really stupid. You're running a business here, right? It's not like Victor Gyökeres came up through the ranks and it's a big lovey-dovey thing. It's not Sir Alex Ferguson and Cristiano Ronaldo many years ago. No, you're a dude who came from Coventry. You made your name. You became Victor Gyökeres at Sporting because nobody knew outside of Coventry knew who you were before that. You signed a contract with a release clause. What is this gentleman's agreement nonsense? What are you going to do? Threaten to go on strike unless we get a gentleman's agreement? Look, he's posturing. I think if you pay 100 million for him, you're a moron. To be honest,
nobody would pay that, but they know that.
If you pay 80 million for him, I don't think that's a good price either. Nope. You know my thoughts on this. Not when Victor Osimhen is out there. Yeah, I think people are gonna wait and they're gonna try to get this to go down. But it's interesting because a lot of times clubs want to keep good relationships with certain powerful agents and so on, right?
Yeah.
But I think you also want to keep good relationships with certain clubs that produce a ton of players who then get sold. Yeah. And that is the case with Sporting. So it'll be interesting to see how United and Arsenal play it. I've made my feelings very clear. My hierarchy of people to sign. Let's leave Isak to one side because I don't think he's moving. It would go Osimhen, obviously.
Yeah.
Sesko, especially for Arsenal. And then Gyökeres. That's my 3.
Yeah.
Kevin De Bruyne is having his medical in Naples today. Jules, he turns 34 at the end of the month. How much does he have left?
That's a great question, Gabby, and nobody knows really. Not him, not Napoli, not nobody really. Yeah. So not Antonio Conte either. We'll see. It's a 2-year plus 1, which at 34 is a long time. There's a 10 million euro signing on fee, which is a free agent, but as we said, often there's nothing free in football. That's also a lot of money. His wages are good, but I think it's exciting. If you're a Napoli fan, it's exciting. I don't know if he has 1 year really to the best again, to the top, maybe 2, maybe 6 months. We will see. Is Serie A a good league for him? It's not as defensive as people still think that it is. But yeah, I think he can do really well with Lukaku and a team that hopefully will play on his strength.
Fun fact, last season, 38 games in the Premier League for Manchester City. He was in the match day squad, so available to play in 33 of those 38. Yeah. This idea that he's some kind of gimp is stupid. And of course, he scored against Wales too.
Yeah, absolutely. Leroy Sané is reportedly close to Galatasaray as a free agent. Do you like this, Gab?
So close that apparently there was like video of him landing at the airport, everybody losing their minds. I do like this for 2 reasons. One is, first of all, I thought he was going to stay at Bayern. We were certainly...
Well, he had agreed.
Bild reported that they had agreed he would take a pay cut.
Changed his agent then.
Yeah. Okay. I like it because it means that if Galatasaray spent money in wages for Leroy Sané, and those are big wages, they won't be spending them on Victor Osimhen, and there's a greater chance that he'll come to the Premier League. Ryan Cherky and Tijani Reinders to Manchester City, all done, Jules. Both will be going to Club World Cup. Who's going to have the bigger impact of the two?
I think the
season
one. Yeah.
You gave me an answer: season 1 and then season 5.
I think the one they need the most, is Reinders, and that verticality, that energy. I think the most exciting for me is Cherky. I can't wait to see him with Pep Guardiola. Juventus have their manager, Igor Tudor, won't just lead them at the Club World Cup because he's also signed a new contract until 2027.
Yeah, amazing how much Damien Comolli seems to like him. Damien Comolli, of course, the main manager. Everybody has changed at Juve, by the way. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
I think he doesn't cost you very much. You don't have a lot of money to spend. You would rather spend it on players. They're discussing Vlahovic's contract extension. Otherwise, he's on the market too. I think my main takeaway with Tudor is he's somebody who's pliable, who's going to deal with what's there. Juventus is a bigger fish to fry, but he showed that he's a competent guy.
He did a good job.
He's not going to embarrass you by saying stupid things after games like the previous manager. So why not? Let's give Tudor a chance. Arsenal women will play the entire Women's Super League season at the Emirates next year, Jules.
Yeah, I think this is great, Gab. I think they played 11 games, if I'm right, last season in all competitions at the Emirates, which is great. So some games are obviously easier to sell when you play Spurs or United or Chelsea, of course, or City or in the Champions League, like Real Madrid. Others will be a bit more difficult. But what Arsenal women have as a club is the community and the fan base, which is stronger, bigger than I think any other team in England. And when you look at the attendances when they've been playing at the Emirates, is great, and it's been great. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I think Arsenal drawing in excess of 30,000 or close to 30,000. Only United draw more than 10,000. They will play some Champions League games
in Bournemouth.
In Bournemouth. I think that might also have to do with scheduling with the Arsenal men's team and whatever else.
Yeah, and for the pitch.
The odd thing about, not the odd thing, but I think the gap in attendance should make people really think about where the Women's Super League is right now and how people are driving money into the game and not seeing the attendances and what they can do to boost them. But also, funny thing is, people who should know this have told me that Arsenal women are so well established because Arsenal pumped money into tried to develop the women's team, years before anybody else. That there are people who are fans of Arsenal women, but who are fans of West Ham men.
They don't go to
Chelsea.
Arsenal men.
They don't care about Arsenal.
Because, the men's side, for sure.
Because they're women who love football and they grew up West Ham fans. And look, there's a women's team that's the only one that we can watch. It looks decent, is Arsenal. So let's go there. It's an interesting dynamic. I wonder how you sell to that. But anyway.
It's true. Bloomberg reports that Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, who are looking to sell off parts of Wrexham, the club that they own, at a valuation of £350 million. That's pretty good, Gab, given they bought the club for £2 million back in 2020.
Yeah, this is not just... Okay, so a couple of things here. First of all, the two of them, this is what 3 promotions in a row will do for you. Now, it's not like they bought the club for $2 million and then they just kind of sat there. Obviously, they put money into the club.
A lot of their own money.
They lost a lot of money in so doing. But they got a lot of that money back. And the valuation is going to $250 million. They've already sold parts of Wrexham off. So they've made their money back several times over.
Yeah.
This valuation, as you know, I am skeptical about valuations.
You are always.
I am always skeptical about valuations. For a club that, has a big brand name for people who watch Disney Plus, but fundamentally plays in a crappy stadium and a crappy small stadium.
Well, they have plans to make it better and nicer. But for now, it's not there yet.
You're not going to generate a whole bunch of rich people to justify this. It seems like a completely mad value. I mean, this is 3 times what Newcastle went for? But hey, if they get people to do it, more power to them. They're running a business here, Jules.
Absolutely.
It's not just the Club World Cup that will be keeping the U.S.'s attention this summer. It's the Gold Cup, too.
Yes.
Jules, the USA got hammered 4-0 by Switzerland in their final warm-up. Now, as a B team, but still, it's Switzerland on holiday. 4 straight defeats for Poch.
4 defeats in a row, 2 in this kind of window, if you want. They lost to Turkey 2-1 with a comical goal that they conceded first. Our boy Johnny Cardoso, who we love, with a mistake. And then this one, they were 4-0 down after 35 minutes. It was just so embarrassing. No, so you can consider goal early. It can happen. But it's just the way they collapse after that. It was hard to watch. It was a B team, as you said. There's no players from European clubs who are there, which is a bit of controversy, what London Donovan said and all of that.
Remind us what London Donovan said.
Yeah, he doesn't think he's right. This is the guy who himself ruled himself out of the national team when he was playing, by the way. So I feel like him criticizing like that the players is a bit pushing it.
He's criticizing. Let's put a name to it. He's criticizing the guy who matters most, which is Christian Pulisic.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because a bunch of other guys are or certainly Weston McKennie and Tim Weah are with Juventus in the Club World Cup.
Yeah, yeah.
And so is Gio Reyna, right? Well, not with Juve. He's on the bench at Dortmund.
Yeah. But
I find it absolutely...
The atmosphere is clearly bad.
I find it absolutely appalling when leaving aside the fact that basically every time you came to Europe, you stunk up the pace. So it's not surprising that you wanted to run back to California whenever you had a chance, right?
Yeah.
And look, you played with David Beckham at the LA Galaxy when the Galaxy were really bad.
Yeah.
How dare you come out and talk about this when the Gold Cup traditionally, and by the way, this is also the way, because it's not just these guys that aren't there. There's others, right? This is the way you want Pochettino to spend time with these players who, frankly, he doesn't know. He doesn't know these guys because they're in MLS, and he splits his time between Europe and the US and stuff like that. He's only been in charge for a year. So he decides to say, let me have these guys. And you're going to go and criticize them because Pulisic ruled himself out. Do you not want a fit Pulisic? Yeah. You do know that Pulisic was basically playing on one leg and with painkillers for most of last season at Milan. And hopefully, from a US perspective, not from a Milan perspective, this year, if he stays at Milan, I think he will, they won't have European football, so maybe he'll be a little better rested, going to the World Cup, whatever else. But surely that's the goal.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't get that.
It was weird.
Yeah.
It was really weird. Chelsea have had an initial offer for Jamie Gittens, turned down. Dortmund reportedly wants 60 million euros for him.
This is where I would ordinarily say, I would quote Enzo Maresca, I want to have long hair. I think there's a shot that they'll get 60 million euros because in the Chelsea business model, which is, he's young, he's English, he's fast, he must be worth 60 million. I think what we saw from him, I think is exciting. We haven't seen it with any continuity.
Yeah, no consistency.
Because he's had, he also had some injuries once Dortmund found their stability, which hurt him. I don't know what his contractual situation is. I would imagine that if you wait like a year, it's not like he's going to turn into a 200 million euro player. And I feel better about the decision. That said, Chelsea are short on wingers. On wingers that Enzo Maresca likes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, are you a Gittens guy?
Yeah. I think there's great potential there. And we need to see more consistency because right now it's a bit of a Noni Madueke on the other side. One great game, 2 games where you don't see enough end product, 1 good game, 3 more games where again you think... But that you work on this. Madueke has a massive potential. Gittens has a massive potential. So, I'll be that. 60 million is a lot of money, but you're right. They need wingers. There's no Mudryk anymore. There's no Sancho anymore. So,
well, this ties into the next question because I have written down here, more fun with wingers. Bayern have been linked with Nico Williams. I guess there's those Sané shoes to fill, maybe. I think it's nonsense. Also, doesn't Nico Williams have a release clause?
Yeah, 60 million euros.
So... if for 60 million euros, I can get, with all the greatest respect in the world, I can get Jamie Gittens, or I can get Nico Williams, who's 2 years older, I think?
Yeah, but he's not English. So if you're Chelsea, you would prefer English, maybe? I don't know.
But he's got an English name, so...
Yeah, true. No.
But who would you take for 60
Nico Williams, for sure.
Even though he's probably going to command higher wages, right?
Yeah, because he's already on good money at Athletic Club de Bilbao, who pay really well the players. But it's... Nico Williams for Bayern makes a lot of sense. You'll have Olise on one side. You've got Nico Williams on the other side. 2 different wingers plus Musiala centrally.
And no Florian Wirtz.
No Florian Wirtz, because I guess you would have moved Musiala on the left or Wirtz on the left to have Musiala centrally or the other way around. Apparently, Nico Williams wants to go to Bayern. We'll see. I'm surprised there's no more teams ready to pay the 60 million release clause, to be fair.
It's the weird economics of the transfer window, isn't it? Where we say it's a free market, but it's not. There's a whole bunch of distortions, and this is one of them.
Napoli are looking to strengthen at the back. Gabi, Yunus Musa and Sam Bokema could be on their way from Milan and Bologna, respectively.
Yeah, so reportedly, they actually have personal terms agreed with both of them. Now they need to negotiate with the clubs. As we know, Conte likes his wing backs. It's pretty obvious that's where he sees Musa.
Yeah.
Sam Bokema, I thought, was one of the best center backs in Serie A
the last two seasons, the season before even.
Probably the season before as well, yeah. And I think that's where they were a little bit short. I mean, they had a monster year from Rahmani, who played every minute of every game. They had Buongiorno, who's good, but the guy's always injured. So I think you need somebody like this to just give you those numbers, to give you that flexibility to the 3. By the way, if he plays a 3, I would expect Di Lorenzo to be in the 3 and not at wing back.
Oh, yeah.
N'Golo Kante has moved from El Ittihad to El Hilal on loan, just in time for the Club World Cup, Jules. Just a coincidence these two clubs have the same owner.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing. Imagine a Liverpool player just signing for Manchester City. It's not exactly that. There's a longer distance between Jeddah and Riyadh.
Let me make it clear. Imagine every single Lyon player who's good signing for Botafogo in the Club World Cup.
Exactly.
He tried that.
You're right. Yeah,
100%. He tried that. I bet you he got on the phone.
Yeah, probably.
And he says, like, Laka, you sure you don't want to stick around a little further? Oh, Ryan, before you go to Man City, can you come?
Yeah, that's crazy. And I'm not sure this should be allowed. I know there was this window made just for the Club World Cup and especially for big clubs and especially for Cristiano to try to get him in. But this doesn't, it's not good for me.
But are you surprised that more players haven't done this because look, they have the 4 biggest teams in Saudi. You could have made a Saudi Pro League all-star team.
Yeah. I guess it must be difficult still.
Because they want their holidays?
Yeah, and also, I don't know. Like, I'm a bit surprised that N'Golo at 34 is ready for this challenge. Too,
But the challenge of
to go to the Club World Cup in a club that he doesn't know just for 2 weeks, maybe 3, maybe 4. Okay, depending how far they go. Just instead of going on holiday, like I don't know. It's just I don't know.
It's an odd one.
Yeah, it's an odd one. More on the John Texter, Crystal Palace and Europa League saga. Gabi, Nottingham Forest have written to UEFA to complain, given Evangelos Marinakis had to put Forest in a blind trust, and of course, Forest will be promoted to the Europa League if Palace are kicked out from the Conference League to the Europa League. So they say, hey, look at them, this is what we had to do. They're not doing anything like that, so why would they get away with it?
Well, first of all, as Mr. Marinakis knows all too well, snitches get stitches, so be careful there. Look, this is so weird because it's not weird that Forest have done this, and look, they're a damage party. They have every right to do this.
Yeah.
And the whole thing could be avoided if UEFA showed more flexibility. And they may yet do this, and they somehow allow this blind trust situation, right? But the deadline for blind trust was March 1st or April 1st or whatever.
March 1st.
So Mr. Marinakis has done it. John Texter didn't think to do it. They've come up with his defense. Look, I'm irrelevant at Crystal Palace. I don't matter. But it is interesting. Now, he says apparently there's a £170 million offer on the table from David Blitzer and Harris, who are 2 of the other 3 owners of Crystal Palace. I don't know how much I would believe this, because that would then put them in charge of the club and not Steve Parish.
Yeah.
So the whole thing has now led to this weird kind of infighting. If I were Texter, what I would do, not that I knew JT, I could never be. Why don't you just work out a deal where you sell the club? You sell the shares in equal terms to the other 3 people. So to Parish, Blitz, and Harris.
They all?
And then you buy them back. You make a gentleman's agreement to buy them back for the same amount in a year's time.
I see what you mean.
Maybe plus interest. This seems to me like the logical way around it.
Yeah,
it's like a blind trust without a blind trust.
Complicated.
And you know what? If they trust you, then you could sell it for £1 billion for all you want, which would make your listing on the New York Stock Exchange with Eagle Football look even better there, JT.
Yeah.
I don't know if they want to do this. It's turning into it. I just feel bad for the fans of the club. They just want to have a run out in the Europa League, and it's turning into this mess. The other thing,
and the draw is soon. No, the draw will be soon.
The draw is the 27th, I think.
Yeah.
the other fun fact in this, and some conspiracy theorists in and around Crystal Palace, including some people who may or may not be associated with the club, they're pointing out that, wait a minute, Nottingham Forest, I mean, obviously, all the great ones are friends, secretly, right?
Yes.
So John Textor is our North Star. He's our hero on this show. But Mr. Marinakis is a close second, right?
Very true.
We go to one for expectorating advice, and we go to the other one for cowboy hat advice, and sneaker advice, of course. People are pointing out that Lyon are doing a ton of business with Nottingham Forest, right? So they got Matt Turner for, I think, 6 or 7 million. Which 10
million euros, I think,
sounds like a lot of money to me, but hey, what do I know? Apparently, there's this thing set up where they're going to, Lyon are going to buy Danilo for 20 million, maybe with the imaginary money that, whatever, who knows where that comes from. Yeah. No, but then the Forest are going to take the money to buy 3 players from Botafogo, Igor Jesus, Jair Cunha, and Cuyabano. That's been reported out there. Yeah. So I was wondering, could it be agent John Textor? He's come out and he said...
Don't forget, they signed Nyakate for 30 million and Mangala too.
Oral Mangala, that's right. So they obviously have...
like each other.
They like each other. There's a little sympathy. I would have never thought that like the sort of the computer nerdy guy. But then again, remember John Textor used to be a competitive skateboarder.
Yeah, of course.
And Mr. Marinakis looks like he'd be a lot of fun on a night out. I'd love to see him on a skateboard. But anyway, Oliver Kahn will not be buying Bordeaux, Jules.
No.
Jared Lopez says he cannot afford it.
Yeah, that's a few weeks ago that they went to the tribunal together, and Oliver Kahn had this big project for the club to pay off the debts, to still be able to play at the main stadium, all that kind of stuff. And I think Jared Lopez made it so difficult by everything he was asking for. So valuing the club between 30 and 50 million euros, closer to 50 million euros than 30, by the way, which would put off a lot of potential investors like Oliver Kahn. So Oliver Kahn said, listen, I tried my best, have a really solid project, but like this is, I'm going to pull out, basically. So he pulled out. And now if you're a Bordeaux fan, you're gutted because at some point you thought you had a way out, and now you're not.
So obviously Jared Lopez has, for better or worse, has left the trail of destruction in his wake.
He killed the club.
In not just there. That's not the only club.
Absolutely. In Portugal, in Belgium,
at Lille. Yeah. But I know Bordeaux are obviously a big brand and everything, and they've won European silverware and they've won league titles. But they're in the 4th tier?
Well, yeah, now because of Lopez,
you're buying for 50 million. You have to spend 50 million and you're getting a club in the 4th tier, which means
with a lot of debts.
With all the debt on top, with no TV income for a long time, and maybe that's not even guaranteed given the way things are going in Ligue 1. I mean...
that's why nobody's going there, which is a real shame.
But what's Lopez going to do? Like, just sit on the club and just run it on a shoestring for as long as he can?
Yeah. It's sad. It's really sad. Gab, I feel we need more Texter time.
Okay, you know what this means? It's time! It's time! It's Texter time! Second time round. It's a double dose of John Texter on the show. We truly are blessed. So, all right. So he's in trouble now because people are accusing him of not paying his transfer debts. So the most recent one is they signed Vitinho, not to be confused with little Vitinho, who's very good.
Yeah.
Big Vitinho, not so good.
So Vitinho
Vitinho is close enough, right?
Yeah.
I guess he wanted to differentiate himself from the other guys.
Yeah, that's true.
Or he's a fullback. He was at Burnley. They've sold him to Portuguese. They sold him to Botafogo for $6.5 million. And Burnley are kind of saying, hey,
where's the money?
Where's our money? And there's another dispute for which, by the way, Botafogo have already been fined. Where remember when they signed Thiago Almada, who of course is now long gone from Botafogo, $21 million from Atlanta, and those bills weren't paid, or they weren't paid on time, for which they got fined. Botafogo's defense in this, and I presume Texter's defense, he's like, well, wait a minute. So it's true. We owe Atlanta United $21 million, but other MLS clubs who we've sold players to owe us money. And so since MLS is really just one big single entity, like I'm not a lawyer, it seems like the stupidest argument.
What world does he live in?
Then they should deduct these receivables from this. I don't know. You get a lawyer, you can delay, you can dither, you can... This makes no sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense at all to anyone, Gab. If you owed money by another club, just do the same thing that Burnley are doing to you and Atlanta United are doing to you, which is fine. A lot of clubs do that. You haven't paid, you're late to pay, we need our money, because for some clubs it's a lot. For Atlanta United, 21 million, which was probably in installments, to be fair, but still, it's still a lot of money. Like, if somebody owes you money, do the same, but don't come up with like excuse like this.
Well, he probably didn't get the money from the other
stupid.
clubs because he probably addressed it to Major League Soccer single entity rather than individual club. But the other thing is, so for those who don't know, when you have domestic transfers in most countries, what happens is you don't actually send the money from one club to the other. You send the money to a central clearinghouse in the league. And then they kind of say, okay, you sold this guy for this much, you bought this guy for that much, and then at the end of the summer, they kind of send you your balance, right? Yeah. This has been suggested forever that FIFA should have the same thing, have a clearinghouse with TMS. It hasn't quite happened, but FIFA are still responsible.
Yeah.
And they can still enforce this. $150,000 does not seem like a big fine, but they can continue. If this escalates,
absolutely.
I don't think they're going to kick Botafogo out of the Club World Cup. There's enough time, but they can freeze Botafogo's transfers.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that they can do.
Absolutely.
So I don't know what he's playing at. Also, why would you want this negative publicity when you're hoping to list your multi-club organization, your MCO, Eagle Football, on the stock exchange and raise money?
Yeah.
Busy time for your team. Angel Gomes is headed from Lille to Marseille as a free agent. Jules, 24 years old. He's got England caps. There's no transfer fee. Somebody missed a trick here?
Yeah, I think so. There were English clubs interested, to be fair. But the fact that he could play Champions League football for Marseille, they've qualified. Don't have to go through the qualifiers. They're already in the league phase. Work with De Zerbi, who obviously, as an Englishman, but even playing in France, he used to watch with Brighton, plus play in the Velodrome. So I think there was a lot of attraction for him towards Marseille, more than maybe, let's say, a West Ham, who I think were quite interested too, to recruit him. You said free agent, no transfer fee. There would be a signing on fee, but I think it's an absolute great pick for Marseille and De Zerbi.
I'm surprised. I'm not dissing Marseille, but when I think of like the fact with De Zerbi, he's there now, but you never quite know. True. I'm surprised that bigger. I mean, it's almost like we haven't looked at his progress in the last couple of years.
No, that's true. Yeah.
And the other thing, accounting-wise, if you sign somebody as a free agent, as you know, even if you get a few million back for him, then all of a sudden, through the magic of, you're good. There's no fee to amortize. So I was a bit surprised by this.
Holland beat Malta even. 8-0, and Memphis Depay scores twice to equal Robin van Persie's goal-scoring record for the Dutch national team. But was Ronald Koeman right to take him off with 20 minutes to go, Gab, on a hat-trick?
So had you asked me the question, because I know what you would have said about
absolutely.
The Dutch guy.
You know the Dutch guy. Stupid. That was stupid.
I only say this. I don't know. What are you doing, dude? Like, you're stomping all over these people. You're running up the score, which I don't approve. I personally don't approve. I'm guessing was Ronald Koeman. Maybe he played with Robin van Persie towards the end of his career. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe
I don't know.
A relative of his, and he wants to preserve his record.
But Memphis is going to beat it at some point anyway.
Well, not if Ronald Koeman never picks him again. Then he stays on 50, 102. I don't follow this at all. I don't know what point you're trying to prove. Why don't you just let him beat him there?
I know.
Beating the record there. I think it's tremendous. 15-102 for a guy like Memphis who did not play as like a legit center forward for most of his career.
Agree.
People can go back at Memphis and say, look, he wasted his career. Right? And part of me, I remember when he played Australia at the World Cup and he destroyed them and it looked like you're watching the second coming. And then obviously he had ups and downs, United, Leon. But I think he then showed that he really is a quality footballer.
Absolutely. There's no doubt.
And then he said, let me go give it a go in Brazil. Well done to him. I think he deserves the record. Hopefully he'll get it. And one fun fact, when I looked this game up on FOTMob, I discovered that there's a guy named James Carragher who plays for Malta. Oh, of course, you knew this.
Yeah, I think he made his debut in the Marsh International.
And he does not speak Scouse like the other one.
He's the son of, so obviously...
Wait, this is Jamie Carragher's son?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
and he's from Malta because...
So I can't remember exactly the link, but there's a family ancestor,
Honestly, I
he's a
genuinely, I
defender
learned
as
something
well.
new.
Yeah.
This is why I hang out with Jules. Like, I learned new stuff. I had no idea. Jenny Hermoso will not be going to the Euros with Spain, Jules. She's 35 and she's not happy.
She's not happy at all, Gabby. She took to social media to criticize the head coach of Spain, Montse, for not picking her up. She plays in Mexico now for Tigres, and I think she's doing okay there. I haven't watched too many other games, but I think considering really the competition in that Spanish midfield and in the squad already, from Aitana to Putellas to Patri to anything you want, really. And I love Jenny, and obviously we talk a lot about Jenny.
Claudia, Mariona, come on.
No, everything. I think it's the right call to make. I can understand why she's frustrated. Obviously, she's been great for Spain, and she's been the best player in the world for many years too. But she's not anymore, and I don't think she's good enough anymore to be part of that squad.
Only 11 players are returning from the World Cup winning squad. And the World Cup was, 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
I mean, that is a pretty big turnover. And I think it speaks to Spain's strength and depth. And I know when people talk about sort of how the women's game is going mainstream, this is what you would expect from an aging diva of a male footballer.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Now we get the women's equivalent.
Yeah. The Athletic reports that Milan against Como in February in Serie A could become the first Italian league game to be played abroad in Australia, Gab. Come on.
So, look, they've talked about this. The rules now allow it. You know, Javier Tebas in La Liga says,
of course.
Serie A says, look, we can be the first with it. Now, Milan and Como don't play European football, so yeah, you could travel out there, you could push it. What I don't understand is why is it Milan Como why would Milan want to give up a home gate at the San Siro?
So it's the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics at San Siro. That's why the game can't be played that day at San Siro. So either they switch the fixtures, so this becomes Como Milan, and then the Como Milan becomes the Milan Como later and can be played.
But that's difficult to do because presumably Inter also play it.
Or maybe it's just also an excuse saying, opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics in Milan. Okay, no problem. We've got a great plan for you. Let's all go to Australia.
Yeah, I'm not big on playing regular season games abroad. I'm also not sure about the sustainability of it. It's kind of a freak that
it's a long
Milan.
way.
It's kind of a freak that Milan are not in the Champions League. But what does this mean? Like when all the Serie A big clubs are in the Champions League or the Europa League or whatever, what are you going to do? You're going to go send them like Salernitana? Like what? I mean, I just think this is kind of cheesy and hokey.
I see what you mean.
But like, if they can make money off it, Milan are very careful about this kind of thing. I can tell you, Max Allegri is not going to like this.
He's not going to like this. You're right.
Dario Sugo will wear the number 14 shirt at Chelsea. Although I still suspect he's going on loan, and they're going to keep Andri Santos for that.
Okay, maybe.
That's what I would do anyway.
Yeah. I agree.
Not that Maresca listens to me. But Jules, what does this tell you about the guy who had the number 14 shirt before, Juan João Felix, and his long-term contract?
Yeah, well, I think he saw that coming because he's not part of the Club World Cup squad, the Chelsea Club World Cup squad. Felix.
So he's loaning Dario his shirt?
He's loaning it for now. Might never see it again. I don't know what João Felix is going to do while the squad is in the US. I guess train on his own or go on holidays and then train on his own. It won't be on his own because Raheem Sterling is also not part of the squad. So we'll also be at Cobham at the training ground after his holidays, waiting for a club to come and get him. Same for Joao Felix. I think there's a third player as well who didn't make the squad. I can't remember who. But those players are not wanted anymore at the club. So for Sterling, there's two more years left.
2 more years.
That's a long time on
30
big wages.
Over 2 seasons.
Yeah, and for Joao Felix, as we said, crazy. Yeah,
5 years.
5 years left.
I'm assuming he's on the phone to Uncle George and trying to figure things out.
But like,
what I wonder is, could he not? Why doesn't he go on loan to El Hilal? No, like I mean,
it's too late. Obviously, you can't anymore.
No, I know, but presumably,
it could.
Okay.
Maybe they tried.
This is the kind of stuff I don't follow, right? Presumably, Uncle George, I know he's very busy, but he knows what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Presumably, Enzo Maresca says, I don't even want to see that guy back here, right? But why not use the Club World Cup? Why don't you say, Joao Felix, go play for one of the Brazilian teams. Go play for El Hilal, right? make some money, get in the shop window, get on television. People might remember that you exist.
Yeah.
And then maybe I have a shot of moving you somewhere that's not Saudi Arabia with my friends this summer, right?
Yeah,
maybe you
absolutely.
can prove something to people.
Yeah,
Instead, what are people going to remember? They're going to remember that stupid goal he scored on the last day of the season for Milan, which everybody's already forgotten. And that's it. They're going to remember him sulking, him being weird, him getting sent off, him acting like a baby. Honestly,
I know. Viewing figures for Sky Sports here in the UK, who have the majority of the Premier League matches, are down 10% on year on year. Sorry, Gab. Is this a concern?
10% is down a lot. Now the average, the stock explanation is basically twofold. One is they blame piracy, because they always blame piracy.
Yeah.
The other is that, well, this was not a very exciting
Season.
Premier League season
Which
in
is
terms
true.
of the last 3 months, because Liverpool running away with the title.
Yeah.
The relegation places were settled, and really all we had was a bit of uncertainty over the
Champions League
Champions League
yeah.
places. But even that was kind of like,
Yeah.
certainly going into the last day. I think you'd have to look, like, to really evaluate this. I think you would have to kind of look month by month throughout the season, what games did well, when. You can't just have this 10% overall thing, because that can mean a lot, or it can mean very little. Certainly, I think it's not as if people are no longer interested in football. It could well be this. There could be other factors. I'd love to see a more detailed study, but I suspect we won't get that.
No.